FDA has just approved a groundbreaking new drug to help prevent HIV and research. This comes as the Trump administration has cut several other research programs that experts say were on the cusp of actually developing an HIV vaccine. I want to bring in Dr. Amesh Ajalja, who is a senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Doctor, it's always great to have you on the show, but tell us why it's, and how does it, just as someone who has been in the medical field for as many years as you have, how does this sort of change the game for you? Because my mother was a medical administrator in the late 1970s and early 1980s, so I remember the very early infections that people had of HIV and how devastating, horrible virus. And now this is a game changer.
Exactly. This is something that's really a major breakthrough. And what it is a form of what we call pre-exposure prophylaxis, or PrEP. And we've been so that you can't really be infected by HIV. And we've had oral PrEP regimens, and we have another injectable PrEP regimen. This one is better in the sense that you only need to take 2 doses for the entire year. So they're about taking a pill every day, and you don't have to come that frequently. So that makes PrEP easier to do. And the easier that PrEP is to do, the more people will use it and the less HIV infections that we have. We know in the United States, probably about 1.2 million people could benefit from PrEP, but less than 400,000 people take it. And we still have around 40,000 or so HIV infections occurring in the US alone every year. So this is something that could really make a dent. And in that sense, it is a major breakthrough, because if we have the technology now to prevent HIV. We don't have a vaccine, but we have really efficient ways to use pre-exposure prophylaxis.
And I guess that would mean you'd have to pay even shots a year, or is that 28 grand for those 2 shots that you would need to protect yourself for the entire year? Now, you can clarify that, but we know that oftentimes when new medications come out, they are very expensive. I don't know what the insurance coverage is on this, but what does it mean for someone who perhaps might not be able to afford?
We will see over time as the price will drop, just like any new innovation. That's going to cost something, and the investors need to get a return on investment, because that's what kind of fuels innovation in the pharmaceutical industry. So that price tag will go down, but think about $28,000 and then what it costs to treat HIV over a person's life. That $28,000 pales in comparison. And the prior injectable that we were using was around $24,000. So it's not much different. I know people have kind of this idea that these innovations, the next question they ask is, who's going to pay for it, or it's too unaffordable. Remember, this was literally priceless. There was no price for this type of prevention. So I think you have to keep that in mind, that medical innovation is something that requires, return on investment. And that's what we're seeing. Remember, Gilead won. no one can buy it, they're going to price it at a place where they think that they will be able to make this an economically viable product.
All right, and real quickly before we go, it's been approved, so how soon will it be on the market? Is it available now?
It is available now because it's also approved for the treatment of HIV in combination with other drugs, but there will be a new formulation, which I think you'll start to see probably in a couple of months. The marketing campaign will gear up and the distribution campaign will gear up, and the insurance companies will work on how they're going to cover this. So I think it will be something that you'll see in that formulation as PrEP in the next couple of months in the United States. And it will be, an exciting new avenue for HIV prevention.
It is such a remarkable new development in this fight against immunization. It's probably not getting, but thank you so much for joining us and breaking it down for us. We appreciate it.
Sure, thanks for
news here. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved a new HIV prevention medication that has been found to be highly effective. The drug is named by drug developer Gilead. The twice yearly efficacy in preventing HIV infections, nearly 100%. That's incredible. CBS News medical contributor, Dr. Celine Gowder, joins us now. She is also an editor at large for public health at KFF Health News. Dr. Gowder, always such a pleasure to see you. I'm so curious about this. When you talk about nearly 100%.
So lenacapavir, or the brand name Yes to go. Those Gilead people are quite clever, right? So yes, pills since 2012. Um, people. A lot of people find it inconvenient to take a pill every day. They can't remember. They don't want somebody to see that sitting in their medicine cabinet. And this allows them to have more control, more privacy, and an extremely effective drug. Trials, not a single one got HIV despite exposure.
And as part of this trial, there are also groups that are often left out of this kind of research.
Yeah, and this is a remarkable part of the story that I think has not been covered. About including not just women, but breastfeeding women and pregnant women who are very often of these kinds of studies. And if you think about who's at risk for HIV infection, it's somebody who's sexually active. Well, guess what? Pregnant women, women who've recently been pregnant are
their picture. Or give these doctors a clearer picture?
Well, I think it means that we have the data to support using these drugs in pregnant women, in breastfeeding women off the bat, instead of having to wait and see and maybe collect data just haphazardly. We actually have clinical trial data to say that up front.
Given how promising this seems, what is
the major question is pricing, affordability, accessibility. So lenacapavir, yes. To go is being priced at $28,000 a year, which is not $400 to $700 a year. That's a significant difference. Drugs like this, you're going to have insurance companies requiring a prior authorization in order to get access. And so that's one side of the getting this amazing tool. The CDC HIV prevention program is getting. And train physicians, educate communities that this exists. And so without that kind of education, it's going to be much harder to roll out this new drug and to see the benefit.
Yeah, but still to know that there's the potential for something like this.
There's the potential.
Yeah.
And, it's the closest we've ever gotten to an HIV vaccine.
Wow, that's incredible. Dr. Schlingander, thank you very much. Always very good to see you.
FDA, the agency has just approved a new highly effective HIV prevention medication in clinical trials that eliminated the spread among people given an injection every 6 months. Joining us now with more, NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal. So, Dr. Syal, first tell us about this drug and why so many are excited about it.
Hey, Zinkley, so this is a big deal. This just happened moments ago. The FDA approving a twice yearly injection. And Zinkley, why this is such a big deal? When we see patients who want to take a pill to prevent HIV. What we have to prescribe is something called PrEP, or pre-exposure prophylaxis. It's something that you take, in hopes that if your body encounters the virus pill. And the most common complaint I hear from my patients when I prescribe it is, do I really have to take it every day? And so that's what makes this announcement such a big deal. It's a twice yearly injection, works actually better than the daily pill. Because HIV prevention. So a lot to look forward to here.
Wow, that is quite a statement. So how soon could people actually get access?
Now, especially with a lot of the governmental cuts that are going on in terms of resource allocation. But what I will say, the next thing is, is it going to cost a lot, right? Is there going to be a lot of copay and deductible coverage with this? And so what we typically see when drugs get approved is that once they get approved, or not until they get approved, is when the FDA or when insurance company generics, the daily pill I was talking about. So a lot of uncertainty still here, but a lot of excitement at the same time.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top
But deep cuts to health initiatives, both here and abroad, could hinder the medication's rollout. William Brangham joins us now with the latest. William.
For nearly 100% protein drugs need to be taken daily. Or monthly HIV/AIDS community, but to those who need it the most is not a sure thing. For more on this, we are joined by Mitchell Warren. He's the executive director of the Mitchell Warren, so good to have you on the so significant.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm delighted to be able to talk about this because it is one of the most exciting moments in HIV prevention, frankly, in this pandemic. 13 years ago this month, in fact, the U.S. effective product. It's incredibly safe, but taking a pill every day for a condition that doesn't exist for hard, and we've seen sluggish rollout for some people and a hard time to adhere to taking a pill every day. So actions makes it are at risk of a So the idea of only needing to come into the clinic twice a year to get these injections makes it a potentially more feasible intervention for people who are at risk of HIV. And so there is a lot of enthusiasm. And then, as you say, the data presented just last year showed near perfect protection in 2 different trials. So at least conceptually, this is our best shot, literally, to prevent infections that we've ever had.
So who are the people that are most likely to use this medication?
FDA for me and the classic routes of transmission. The important part of PrEP, it's really helping people understand their own risk. It is certainly going to be used by some gay men and men who have sex with men. Drugs, sex workers, young women, HIV. It's really about helping people understand their own sexuality, their own sexual risk, and hopefully empowering them to make decisions.
As we've also seen, large cuts by the Trump administration to foreign aid. And given that the U.S. is one of the, perhaps the world's biggest what is your sense as to what those cuts mean as far as getting this drug to the people who need it most?
You know, William, this is one of the cruelest ironies. You know, the FDA approved this product just 2 weeks ago, and we really should be in a moment of celebration, of thinking about now how to do the hard work available by what we've seen over the last 5.5 months. The presidential administration is really dismantled as have the absence of the U.S. Agency for International Development, which was the program called PEPFAR, the President's Emergency for over 20 years, had agreed with the Global Fund to fight AIDS, TB, and malaria to roll out lenacapavir with the speed and they wanted to reach 2 million people immediately after the approval of the product. The ambition is still that exists and the Global Fund is still committed, but it is going to be significantly harder because the backbone around the world have been funded by PEPFAR, in a sense, stabilize the patient, stabilize the PrEP programs that have existed delivering oral PrEP and an early six-month injection. So the will is there, the commitment from political leadership at country level and certainly at the Global Fund is there. But in the absence of USAID and with a greatly diminished PEPFAR, it's coming at such a difficult moment because the science is so promising and
the distribution of the drug here in the US. I mean, this is an expensive drug. It's around, I think, $30,000 a year for those 2 injections. Congress right now is debating huge cuts to Medicaid, which is provides HIV care and slow its rollout domestically?
I fear that it might. And again, it's another one of these cruel ironies. In this president's first administration, one of the great surprises was his announcement in his State of the Union address in 2019 that he wanted to end the HIV epidemic in this best shape. And yet in this term of his administration, he's begun to cut the HIV prevention programs at the Centers for Disease Control into states and cities that are going to need to deliver in line with the other listed prices for other PrEP.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I know there was a ton of news to cover and few people covering it, so we appreciate you being here on this. And today is really a statement on what we can do when we work together. And everyone up here has worked together on what we're going to talk about today. So let me introduce everyone first. Right here is Jim. Michael. He's the acting special agent in charge here in Charlotte for the FBI. Was very helpful in these investigations. Thank you, Jim, for that. Alan Wilson, and we'll talk a little bit about the interplay between North Carolina and South Carolina, but thank you for making the trip, Alan. Jeff Jackson, who's frequently here, and we appreciate you coming down today, Jeff, on this. Richard Gant, charged for the IRS criminal investigations, and Kelly Blackman, special agent charged for the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of the Inspector General, which played an obvious major federal and state across multiple agencies, Republican and Democrat. We're all here with one goal, and that is to eradicate $5 trillion that we spend. $45% of that spending is Medicare and Medicaid. And when criminals steal from those programs, they're stealing from all of us. And I don't mean all of us just as taxpayers, which of course they do steal from all of us as taxpayers, but this is healthcare. This is literally a matter of life. Children. made healthcare fraud a priority for the administration, and it's certainly a priority here for my office. But we are not taking that from me. We're all working on this together. So I'm going to talk about a couple cases that we're highlighting today, and then turn it over to these folks who did the investigative. So the first is a federal case that was brought to the attention of federal authorities by the Attorney General of South Carolina, Attorney General Wilson. I really appreciate that, Alan, and playing with the South Carolina Attorney General's office. Well, this was a case where providers in North Carolina were making false claims to Medicaid in South Carolina. And they were making those false claims and saying they were providing services that were never provided. You have a hand up, I think, but I'll name their names for you just so you have it. Saunders of Charlotte, Vanessa Boatwright of Manning, South Carolina. DeJuan Strickland of Charlotte, Cynthia Harris of Elgin, South Carolina, Stephanie Corbett of Jonesboro, Georgia, and Karen McClary that were used to make the claims. All of those, Latarsha Hitchcock has already had her appearance in court. The rest will have their appearance in the coming days in the federal courthouse a block from here. The 8th, David Corey Hill, was charged by a separate information. And the reason for that is because he's already agreed to plead guilty in the case. And so he will be entering his guilty plea at the courthouse in the coming days this week as well. And Attorney General Wilson and Special Agent in Charge Barnacle will provide some more additional details about that very important case. But I do want to emphasize how thankful we are to the South Carolina Attorney General's office and the South Jackson case. Ms. Jackson held herself out as a clinical addiction specialist. She also had a purported mental health agency and a clinical laboratory. And she charged with billing North Carolina Medicaid over $1.9 million in psychotherapy and drug testing services that either weren't necessary or were just never provided at all. Is the beneficiaries who Medicaid number she used never knew they were being used. Many of those beneficiaries were dead. Ed? Services and found they had already capped out for Medicaid because they had been fraudulently used by Ms. Jackson, according to our allegation. At the federal court have misused Medicaid or Medicare money, but maybe don't rise to the criminal levels, we will sue them to get the money back. We will recover taxpayer money. I think I speak on all of us. Or when I say a message to those out there who are thinking about engaging in similar actions, if you engage or if you exploit our Medicare and Medicaid programs, we will find the red flags. We will trace the money. So I want to turn over, and I want to thank our federal these, and I'll turn it over to Special Agent in Charge Barnacle to speak a little bit more about the investigation in these cases. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, U.S. Attorney, about healthcare fraud. On these programs to access medical care and other services they need. The FBI is proud to be here as part of an ongoing partnership and a strong team of state and federal partners who have played $22 million in fraud. Together, taken and used for someone's profit. This is about behavioral health service and did very little, if anything, to help others. I want to next steps. Strickland Care. Names that will tell the public they're there to help you, but in reality, there was no services provided. Money was just taken from our government agencies. we fight healthcare fraud. To detect and combat healthcare fraud, we've used in over 100 years of fighting crime. We leverage our data scientists and data analysts. We use accountants. Forensic accountants play a huge role in fighting healthcare fraud cases. They look at the flow of money, the flow of funds, and the Medicare billing, and make our cases for us. As always, the FBI relies on strong partnership. And the attorney generals of the great states of North Carolina and South Carolina, IRS-CI, the United States Attorney's Office for the Western District of North Carolina, along with every agent, investigator, analyst, and prosecutor that had a hand in this case. I also want to recognize HHS OIG and SAC Blackman. The FBI works with HHS across the country. The FBI has over 440 agents that work health fraud full-time across the United States. Nearly every you enough for the relationship we have here in the Carolinas. All agencies, local government working together is how we mitigate these fraud schemes that are draining to protect public funds and bring criminals to justice. As someone who has led healthcare fraud cases at the national level, and today the Department of Justice will be announcing a national coordinated takedowns across the entire United States, and these two cases are part of that coordinated takedown. I can say without hesitation that this is a model of how state and federal agencies should work together to build investigations, bring offenders to justice, I appreciate your time, and I'd like to turn it over to the Attorney General of South Carolina, Mr. Alan Wilson. Attorney General.
Thank you. Thank you, Agent Buckle. U.S. Attorney Ferguson. And thank you for hosting this event. And General Jackson, it's great to be back with you in Charlotte. It's been about a month since we did another press conference. We have, and I want to thank our federal partners for being here today. Is Operation Border War, which is an investigation of behavioral health providers. Approximately 50 systematically defrauded the Medicaid program of South Carolina of over $21 million. Let me say that again. Defrauded South Carolina's Medicaid program with over $21 million between the years of 2017 and 2024. This investigation was titled Operation Border War because the defendant took advantage of companies located within 25 miles of South Carolina. So obviously that would bleed over into North, create this fraudulent scheme. And targets and the companies and the scheme being implemented that plagued South Carolina's Medicaid program. citizens for years. We then, after understanding the attorney's office, the FBI, and our other federal partners who are standing up here with us today, this is an example of our office's ability to go after tens of millions of dollars that were being defrauded against South Carolina beneficiaries. And just to give you a little bit of what was going on, what 8 co-conspirators basically would do is that they would go and they would but they would just create a company, and then they would go and they would find legitimate actual real licensed professional company, Helping Hands or whatever the name of it was. We would like for you to provide services to Medicaid beneficiaries. Fill out this application. From that application, they would be able to of these LPCs or licensed professional counselors. They already had their national provider ID number, and they would use that information. They would then enroll them up into the company and then apply through the South Carolina. Most of the LPCs or licensed professional counselors were duped. They were unknowing. There were a couple who actually were complicit in this scheme, but the vast majority of them did not know